I think we got the commercial streams up now. Took a second there. I think we got it. Chat room is open if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch or Ustream.
5x5 for live stream.
JupiterBroadcasting.com/matrix. Get in that general chat. Help us name this dang thing. So this is interesting, I think. I think we probably expected this, but it is official. Linux market share on Steam has surpassed macOS again. So the Steam Deck came out in February of 2022, and it has been a big help for the Linux gaming market share.
But Chris, the new Mac gaming thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it feels like it's a lot more with the Mac than just that Proton thing they're going to do. You know, it's like Apple just hasn't really prioritized it at the OS level. They've really focused on Metal, and they haven't even tried to do a decent implementation of Vulkan or OpenGL recently on the platform.
No one buys a Mac to game.
Right. And honestly, they took a step back in GPU performance with their new Macs. I mean, they're nice machines, but
right.
their GPUs are kind of just now getting competitive, I think, in the M2 series. Along with the rise of Linux, because it's been powered by the Steam Deck, there's also been a rise in AMD CPUs and GPUs representing the Steam hardware survey. So now AMD, if you look at it all, is getting up to around 71% of Linux gamers' systems.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What a change from just a few years ago, right?
Yeah. When it was like, if you wanted a game, it was NVIDIA or nothing. On the Windows side, that AMD number is at 33%. So way bigger on the Linux side. Way bigger. Which is just sort of fascinating. I can't help but think it feels like it requires a product and TiVoization for this to be a success, right? Like Android, Chrome OS, and now the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of all successful using Linux, but they're not successful because of Linux. I mean, they are successful, but that's not why the users are buying them, right? It's like we build this great infrastructure and this great tooling, and we, as enthusiasts, identify its capabilities, and we start using the Linux desktop for gaming years ago. But it took until a consumer product came along, like the Deck, or like the Chromebook, or like an Android device, before you really saw adoption. It's like it really still, even in 2023, with how good Linux has gotten, how easy Linux has gotten, how great the desktop has gotten, how little modifications Linux really needs, how in reality, the best way to take advantage of Linux in your hardware, look at the Deck, is to contribute upstream. But yet, despite that, it's still not successful unless somebody ships it as a product. We don't see mass adoption until somebody productizes it. What do you think, Brent?
Well, I think because if you do it that way, then it's like one giant bundle, right? If as a consumer you pay your dollars or your euro or your whatever, and you just get a thing that works out of the box, which is really attractive. If you do it any other way, then what? You have to have some technical know-how to get that going. And also there's a massive convenience factor and a bit of risk. You know, what if you do it wrong and it's not the experience you were looking for, et cetera, et cetera. So there's something to be said for productizing and testing and QA and all of that stuff that comes with a thing you buy not off the shelf. Nobody buys anything off the shelf anymore, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You have thoughts, Wes?
Oh, just you also have to know it exists, right? I mean, unless you happen to know like a System 76 or a particular vendor that's offering you Linux, or you've heard about Linux and are comfortable installing it.
Right.
That's just not even an option, right?
Meanwhile, the Deck's getting advertised at the top of the Steam app, which is a very popular app.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point. Is they have the marketing channels, just like Chrome OS
we're just not
and
great
Android,
at that, right? I mean,
yeah, right. We don't have any more. Yeah,
makes me super curious about how recently, the Dells and the Lenovos have listed Linux as an operating system option with quite a hefty discount on some of their, laptops and such. I'm curious if, I don't know, some stats. Give us some stats. Like, is that being used much? Is it worthwhile? Is it only nerdy people doing it?
I hope Valve sees this as a success. I want to see the Steam Deck 2.
Yeah.
And I want the Steam Deck 2 to like give me FOMO, like I need to have it. Because I feel like that would mean that it is indicative of actual like significant progress. Like I'll tell you one thing I would love. A little bit higher resolution screen.
You can get one? You can get one and replace it already.
How does the deck deal with that, though? Because I feel like that's part of its success combo is that it's not pushing a very high resolution.
Oh, well, you're going to have to probably use FSR, the upscaling stuff. And it can handle a little bit higher res, though. I mean, I'm sure you plugged into a TV and stuff.
Right.
The higher res isn't that high. I think it's just above 1080p. And the only thing I don't like about it is you have to flash a modded BIOS.
Oh,
but
interesting.
it is a product. You can buy it, and there's instructions for all that.
I'd love a GPU bump. I know I'm crazy, but I'd love something that I could hook up a USB headset to and do VR. I'm not a VR crazy person, but both my daughters play with their VR headsets, and they have such a blast. And then I put it on from time to time. I'm like, this is actually a lot of fun. I don't want to be tied to the Meta platform and any of that. But if Valve came out with a reasonably priced headset that hooked up to my deck over USB-C, and the deck did the GPU compute and the game storage, and then the headset just basically was HDMI over USB-C or something.
I'd buy that.
Totally, dude. But you'd need a little bit more power in there.
Yeah. Maybe designed a bit with that use case in mind.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love that, because that could also be, if it could do that, it could do a lot of other things as a desktop machine. So it could be a spicy little machine if it could do that, beyond just being able to be a VR thing. Just to do that, it means it also has enough horsepower to do all the other kind of fun stuff.
All right, everyone, buy 6 more decks.
Yeah. I hope they see it as a success.
They've already well oversold what they expected, so that's definitely a success.
I need an insider at Valve to just tell me how it's going. I don't have to repeat it on air, but I just need to know. I need to know. I want to know.
A CB made a good point here that Proton was part of the productizing that actually made this a success, and that Linux gaming wasn't really, going anywhere until that.
True. I mean, it was going, but funny enough, years ago, Linux gaming was actually thriving with native ports. There was a couple of companies that their entire focus was just porting games to Linux. In fact, there was a period of time where I think the Linux desktop was even more vibrant in some ways. Have you ever heard of Loki? Nope.
No.
Okay.
No. I reached in my deep stores and found nothing.
Well, their last press release was October 8th of 2001, so I can understand why you might not remember them. They write, Loki is now closed. What? Loki stores are closing. The Loki web store, but their website's still up at Loki Games, LOKIgames.com.
Keep it going for another 20 years.
Yeah, man. But what these cool cats did was they were like the premium ports to Linux for games. So you knew if Loki Games was working on a Linux port, you knew it was going to be a good port. And that's all they did. That was their whole... And they contributed upstream to a lot of open source projects that helped get Linux gaming where it is today. They're gone now. It's nice to see that they're still paying for the website. And it's also a classic old web page because it is from 2001. So it's just...
But it's still working.
Actually kind of easy to navigate, I have to say.
Some of those old pages, yeah. There's just nothing going on, so it's plain and simple.
Loads instantly.
And that artwork at the top, that's real nice. It's impressive.
The games that Linux people play.
Okay, we got some boosts.
Do we now?
Yeah. Maybe not as many as we'd hope, but definitely some.
I had a weird sense it was going to be a low week.
It ebbs and flows.
Uh-huh.
The boosts must flow.
I had a sense for some reason. I was like, I don't know. What was our topic last week? Have we already forgotten?
If you say it like that, it'll make it obvious we've already forgotten.
Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah.
Obviously, beating Apple to the sauce.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's understandable. Still a nice little haul, Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not really complaining about the amount much, so.
Oh, no, not at all, to be clear. No complaints here.
What's that price doing these days? Do you have our weekly price update?
25.
Oh,
My prediction is it slides for a while unless we get a late fall, early winter ETF approval.
Got it.
And I think this Bitcoin ETF approval is going to be an interesting bellwether of the level of corruption in the system, because if Blackwater's ETF gets approved before everybody else's, that is a clear sign of collusion and corruption, in my opinion, because there have been ETF filings years ahead of BlackRock. So that'll be interesting if they start showing special preferential treatment. The other thing that I think is another potential tell is I don't think there's any technical reason it needs to be approved this year. The drop dead deadline is January of next year. If I were the SEC, I would punt that until January if I could. Unless I was a corrupt, colluding organization and I knew, and if you think about it from a business standpoint. Think about it from BlackRock standpoint. So you've got this new ETF you want to sell, and it's a Bitcoin ETF, and you got 5,000 salespeople because you're BlackRock and you're ginormous. How do those salespeople sell just after the halving versus before, right? If you're selling before the halving, you got a great sales pitch. Hey, we got this Bitcoin asset. Issuance is about to drop in half. You can get in now while the price has been low because of the economy. And we expect in a year or so this thing's going to be really popping off. Now's your chance. Versus after the halving, it's a little bit different of a sales pitch. It's more like, well, this is a long-term investment. You know, you're probably looking like a 4-year return, right? But if you do it before the halving, a year before the halving, you could get some pretty instant returns. And it's a lot easier product to sell. So if I were BlackRock, I would be pushing Gary to approve it in the fall or early winter, so they have a couple of months, but with the holidays, you really want it in the fall, to train up the sales staff to go aggressively sell before the halving. But that would just be if I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, trying to look at my best leverage to sell a product, not from like a regulatory standpoint. So depending on what we get, I think it will reveal a little bit of corruption, because if they rush to approve this in the fall, I think it indicates that they're being influenced by the banks to get this thing, because there's really no technical reason it needs to be approved this year. But if it happens, I think that indicates corruption. And if they approve BlackRock first, I think that indicates collusion. But we'll see. Maybe they all get approved in January. I don't know. But
I like it.
It looks like it's going to be hard for the SEC to decline it, because Grayscale's lawsuit with the SEC Grayscale just won their lawsuit against the SEC in court. And to paraphrase the three judges that agreed, all three judges agreed that the SEC was being ridiculous and that their rationale didn't hold water and that they couldn't use that rationale anymore to delay the approval. So they either have to come up with an entirely new reason to delay it, or they take this court case as an opportunity to reverse their current position and be like, the SEC always follows the law, so we're going to stand out of the way now. We've made our case, but we're going to follow the law, and we're going to start approving these things. One of the two things is going to happen. They're going to come up with a whole new rationale to delay it, and delay it till January, or they'll use that court case with Grayscale that happened last week as justification for now approving these. So we'll see. That's the rundown. Price will go up after those ETFs get approved.
Mm-hmm.
Because even just positive news about the ETFs makes the price go up. But you're talking potentially trillions of dollars coming in at that point, because ETFs are accessible to a whole different category of financial customer than Bitcoin is. And they're available to a whole different set of businesses than currently with Bitcoin. If as a business you have Bitcoin on your balance sheet as an asset, you have to write down a loss when the price goes down, but you don't get to write up the gain until you've cashed it out.
Oh.
So you're always showing a loss, but you don't show a gain until you cash. It's a weird,
seems silly.
It's an accounting thing that makes it sort of not look good on the balance sheet to hold a lot of Bitcoin. So if you hold it through an ETF, that's a totally different financial structure. Anyways, I think it's going to be a popular product for a lot of boomers and, established folks. I don't know. Our folks, those types of people. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, right. If you've had an interest, you already have a brokerage account and all that, then suddenly you can just dip your toes in without having to sign up on Coinbase or deal with new third parties and get a wallet.
Rightfully and intelligently so, people are like, Coinbase? Mm-hmm. I'm giving who my money? They're connecting to my bank account through what connection? What is all of this? This is right where they know Fidelity.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Fidelity will have an ETF product themselves.
Of course. Yeah.
So you could, you can just buy it.
You stay in house.
Yeah, you stay in house, and sure, there's going to be perks if you do that.
Of course, yeah.
crazy.
It'll be interesting to see what all the maybe this is available now. I haven't paid that closely attention, but like the fee structures and stuff for these ETFs.
Well, that's going to be where they have to compete, right? Because if you have 8 or 9 or a dozen banks that all get approved for ETFs around the same time, and they're all the biggest banks in the world, how do they differentiate the product?
Yeah.
And are they going to have sales teams that are promoting Bitcoin ETFs and trying to stay competitive with the fees and the perks? And I think another thing they'll probably, some of them will offer easy access to lending services using the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF as collateral. So that could be a way where, like, say a Fidelity customer buys an in-house Fidelity ETF and then takes an in-house Fidelity collateral loan off of that in-house Fidelity ETF. That seems like a pretty easy thing they could offer their customers. So yeah. Anyways, fascinating. I got one last Linux story we should talk about before we get in show position. We should also probably review the doc real quick. But what are your thoughts on the NSA branding around SE Linux getting removed in Linux 6.6? So I think we all remember that SE Linux, the Enhanced Security ACL system or control system.
That
Linux,
thing you always turn off on Fedora?
Yeah. It was created originally, probably because they needed it, by the NSA, the U.S. National Security Agency, the spy agency, that is not exactly beloved. And there's been some contention around their branding around it for a while. There's been suggestions in the past to remove it, but now the logic is their original contribution was quite a while ago, and it really has been moved forward quite a bit by the community, although NSA developers actually remain involved. But the bulk of the work has now been done by the community. And they say, quote, "We're a long way from the original NSA submission, and I would consider SE Linux a true community project at this point. So we're removing the NSA branding. It just makes sense." How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it seems fair enough. Like, it's still no secret. If you're interested in the origins, like, the Wikipedia page will surely mention it. So I don't think anything too nefarious. Plus, it does make a lot of sense. Like, yeah, of course the spooks want machines they can trust.
Yeah.
As far as anyone can have those,
Yeah, they have a real use case for it, don't they? What do you think, Brent? How do you feel about it? Do you feel like they're trying to be sneaky and drop the NSA branding? I mean, as a non-U.S. citizen, are you concerned when spy agencies are developing part of your system?
Dun, dun, dun. Well, I have a clarifying question first.
Okay.
Is it the NSA spearheading the removal of this, or is it just the community project itself just kind of wiping it off?
I believe it's the community. Let me check the pull request. I have the pull request here, so let me see. Yeah, Paul Moore, who comes from his own personal domain. It doesn't look like he's coming from an NSA domain.
But he secretly works for them, right?
33 new SE Linux patches. Yeah. Yeah, right. I guess so. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? I like that. That's good little conspiracy bacon there.
Well, I learned from the best.
Honestly, if I were a spy agency, I would hire developers to contribute to open source, and probably 99.9% of the time, I would just want them to do standard contributions, maybe keep me apprised of what's going on, what new standards are coming out, what people are using. And then when the time comes, in a moment of crisis, when our nation is at need and national security is at risk, I would call upon those agents. I would call upon those agents to do the right thing to protect their country. That's what I would do if I were the NSA.
What is the right thing in this?
As a spy, I can justify anything. Is the anti-constitutional stuff totally worth it to save democracy?
Well, that's the thing. So I just, this particular story is just a reminder that stuff you're suggesting is probably already happening anyways. So like a little bit of branding getting removed, I don't think it's really changing anything.
Never forget. How you feeling over there, Wes, about the doc?
Pretty good. Let's see. Let's pop over there again. I'm curious how we make the pre-show bit work energy-wise.
Yes, me too. Good question.
I was just catching up on.
So here's the contrast, right? So the top story is these changes, which we could break down real quick if we feel like we need to work through that too. So the top story is these changes, right, to block this hook-in by NVIDIA. And the flip side of that story is, well, if you do want it all in kernel, it comes at some cost.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like you don't want everything you wish for, but ultimately.
Yeah, something about we've been celebrating the success of AMD's awesome open source kernel or kernel driver.
Yeah, what I was thinking is I'd start it with, like maybe a little red meat to you, like how much I know you love measuring things by their lines of code, and then let you kind of talk about that, and then we could talk about how look GPU drivers, they're complex. I didn't know this little ditty, guys, but we should mention this: the proprietary NVIDIA driver, when it's built, is just roughly about the same size as the Linux kernel. Just the NVIDIA proprietary driver.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, man. Well, they are like little mini computers, those GPUs. But it's like, what do you want? You want open source drivers, or do you want a tiny kernel? So I think that's the discussion to be had in the pre-show.
Oh, I see your last line there. Let's try to sneak that in.
Oh, it is your fault, and I'll get there if I remember. I have a logic that gets us there.
If you write it down, it's remembered. I think we do have a little housekeeping too.
Okay.
I think there are a few people in Mumble trying to get in, but Minimax, on holidays or something. So, do you have the almighty power to drag some folks into the room?
See. Hello, Toss. I see he's muted right now. But I dragged you in since Minimech isn't here to mic check. So,
just gambling today.
Yeah, I do have the band hammer.
Appreciate it.
Welcome in.
Was that Darth Vader? That sounded kind of Darth Vader.
I like that. You put him on a good mic, and I think you'd have a good podcasting voice, sir. I like that.
Thank you.
I want a collection of the best voices in the community. I know there's some good
Can you
ones
just
out there.
breathe heavily for a moment for us?
Shit,
Damn.
that is damn good.
Yeah.
That is real good. How about that? All right. Well, I'm going to refine my my live item feed idea, but I think
we should chat about it more.
I mean, like an MVP.
Yeah.
And then just see how it is, and then we don't even have to tell people about
I want to play more with the lit stuff anyway for preparation of further integration.
There's got to be a member or two out there that have a podcast too.
Oh,
That-
yeah, we could.
What I'd like to experiment with is I want to try connecting like from my office and just see what the workflow is to like cut in to the pre-recorded stuff on the JB Live FM stream and do a rando live broadcast and then have a transition back, because then I think we could open it up to a member or two that have a podcast and let them experiment with it.
Or you could open up slots for like folks who could like pay a boost bounty, and then you'd want to pre-screen whatever their
Interesting.
submission was. Right?
That's why I was thinking a member is, I mean, I would open it up to just about anybody after the initial testing, but I was thinking with a member, we kind of have some trust there.
Totally.
So it's
You could sell off an NFT.
sell off what?
An NFT.
Yeah, yeah. Giving an NFT token that gives you authorization to the JB live
It's the
stream.
only way to properly keep track of everything. We'd have the blockchain, to audit it.
And then you could sell that token to another listener, that NFT, for their access.
Right, and then they can use it as collateral for some shady loans.
Put it on DeFi?
It's already there, bro.
Wait, so you can also sell like slots that sponsorships can, they can buy into?
There you go.
And they can trade them and
I
stuff?
think we
All right.
just reinvented radio.
We did it. That's our exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Then we start selling everyone on these gadgets so they can put in their cars so they can listen to us.
Yeah,
wherever
like
we
a
go.
hardware device.
Yeah.
You know what'd be really sweet is
It'll
you
be
could like
ESP powered.
if you could like
Would
tie
speak
that
to space.
and tie it into like a speaker. So that way they just have like a speaker in the car too.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been thinking it'd be nice to have that.
Yeah, that'd be really sweet. Just need to have a MiFi in every single car to make that work. What could go wrong? All right, I'm gonna go close up the studio. We boys ready? Ready?
I'm going to use the,
Yeah, let's all,
You-
I'm going to film a lot.
Use the little
thing, yeah.
podcasters room. All right,
Yeah.
all right. You go use the little podcasters room, and then we'll get started after that. I'll link. You go ahead, Wes. Go ahead. I'll vamp for a moment because I had something I wanted to share with the live stream. Anyways, it's a bit of a downer, but I'll put a link in the.
outta here.
Yeah, get out of here. I'll put a link in the chat room. But if you're listening after the fact, Google the boiling frog of digital freedom. A title so damn good, I wish I would have thought of it myself. And what this individual does is they go back to 2011 and they kind of start building a timeline of our digital privacy getting eroded. And they start in 2011 with Microsoft making Secure Boot mandatory for Windows. Then they kind of go up to Chrome introducing some DRM, and they bring it all the way to present day, including this new CERN bill that France is proposing that mandates that browsers enforce government provided block lists. I don't know if you've heard about that, but that's a thing that's going on in France right now. And they also talk about Google's new web environment integrity checks. And the individual speculates how Google and Microsoft, with their S mode in Windows, will kind of just slowly turn down the user privileges and abilities over the years. And he takes it from present day and kind of maps it out to where he sees it going in 2035. And he does it with his visual thermostat that kind of shows you how hot it is. And we're about halfway through right now. And where I think he really nails it is this Google's integrity protection environment. He kind of talks about a really kind of easy way for Google to turn up the difficulty when you're using a non-verified Chrome browser. It sort of starts with small things. YouTube, Gmail, Spotify, and a few other major websites starts using the API for internal user reputation scoring. And then they force non-compliant browsers through maybe more CAPTCHAs. So the first way you really experience it is maybe like starting next year, where you have to do more hoops, more CAPTCHAs. Then they talk about maybe Google removing the ability to install Android apps outside the Play Store, citing security concerns, and just sort of ramp it up over time to how even the existing technologies that we have today, if nothing new was introduced, could really be used to reduce user freedom over time.
I just at the day job, we've got some like CAPTCHAs on various things, login areas, and we've had complaints. Some of them were protecting some sort of semi-internal stuff as well, or admin things, and complaints were people. They're like, I have to keep going through these reCAPTCHAs over and over, and folks who are logged into a Chrome profile, doesn't happen to them. But if you don't do that, I guess you're more suspicious.
Yeah. Do not like that.
Right.
And I'm always going to be the user that's on a suspicious browser.
Of course, yeah.
What
is that NixOS thing anyway?
What is this? What? Nikes?
Nikes. That sounds like a hacker system.
Yeah. All right, Brentley. You back? You got the kitties?
Oh, hey, Brentbot.
Yep, Brentbot's back.
Yeah, they're dutifully asleep.
Lazy cats. I bet that's what Levi's doing right now.
Why don't they do the show? We take a nap.
No kidding.
Don't they do a show overnight? I don't know. They're pretty active at night. I don't know what they do.
Yeah. Dogs, not so much.
No.
Levi's the first to bed and the last out of bed. But
I love when dogs put themselves to bed. Humans, what are you doing? I'm going to bed.
I know there's a point, too, like when we're watching a movie when it's loud, where Levi gets off the couch and he kind of jumps down, looks up at us, and then just heads off to bed.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. This is too much. This is too late.
Can't sleep in here.
Bye, Levi. We all say, good night, Levi. All right. Get your recording tools ready.
Oh, is this?
Did you?
Is this our musical episode?
Did you want to get up? Did you got stuff to grab? Water? Close up the? Do we need to close up any doors?
Oh, I
or
should
anything?
probably, I guess. And also, we should mention the titles have already been started.
Good.
I started them kind of early, so
you early boy.
Please bang suggest as we go along here because we need a great title. We can't have a crap title. No. And I think maybe we had a crap title last
Chris
week.
gets really mad at us after the show if we have a bad title.
Yeah,
he berates Brent and
lots
I.
of yelling. Maybe that's why the boosts were slightly down because we had a bad title.
Bad title, bad topic.
Well, who recommended that one? We gotta berate them.
Oh, damn it. Shut up. we don't. Hey, man, what's done is done. Water under the bridge. All right. PRB.
It's one of the lessons, right? When you do a show every week, you can only fret so much about the last one.
Yeah.
Soon it'll be
You're always
it'll be
as
like
good as your next
six-pack,
podcast.
You'll have totally forgotten it. How's the report from the rugged Canadian wilderness, Brent?
It's getting colder here,
Yeah,
and I'm
sure.
not ready for it by any means. Like, if summer were just starting now, I think I would be ready.
Yeah, why don't we get 2 summers? I don't know that the world can handle that particularly well.
How would
at
that
the
work
moment,
from a
but-
solar perspective? I guess we would need 2
Well, we introduced a
suns?
little loop thing, so we kind of stay in place around, and then just like a little.
Don't we loop already?
Yeah, but like a sub loop, like how they used to think.
Oh, like a loop-to-loop.
a
you
loop to
mean?
loop inside. Now
ah.
we're gonna have to
Well,
use a lot of rockets for that, and I assume the exhaust won't help our climate change problems, but
Right.
it'd be a cool engineering effort.
Please don't say that. I'm dying in Florida.
Right.
Oh, well,
my
just come
condolences.
north. It's fine.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to have 2 summers in Cali either.
Would you prefer 2 winters?
Loan your Cali summer up to Brent. He needs it right now.
Yeah, just ship it like UPS or something.
Wouldn't it be easier just to ship you?
Arguably, yeah.
But you got to be able to fit his cat and his brother. And
Well, cue Chris suggesting Bang Bus.
Yep. You know it, buddy. I don't even have to say it anymore. I'm in your head. You know it.
I'm getting the T-shirt in the mail right soon, I think.
Guess what I just found out? Wes brought meat.
that's right.
There's a meat bath going on out there right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
no wonder he was busy over there.
Some ribs flavored with Hatch chilies.
Ooh. Drive fast.
Okay, so
Brent.
once they're cooked, what's the
Oh, they're cooked. They're just
accoutrements?
finishing up in the sous vide.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, do you have accompaniments for that, or
The wife's on her way down,
greater
so she
plan?
may.
Well, you're fine then.
She may supply us with. Cook them all.
Brent, why doesn't
could
Wes
you
bring the meats when we're there?
I will next time. I'm sorry I've slacked on that.
He does when I'm there. I don't know what your problem is.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Wes,
I owe Jeff
he
some
has
meat.
the meat. Yeah. Yeah, come on up, Jeff. We'll get you some meat. Man, so I told you guys about how I got my pre-meat.
You sure did.
I tested my pre-meat.
I've been waiting for an update.
Well, so I'm almost always, even though I love steaks and everything, I'm almost always a marinade guy.
Mm-hmm.
No way, man. These steaks, they're the kind of steaks that after they've cooked and like you touch them and then like you lick your fingers, you're like, oh my God, that's so good. Salt and pepper, right on the grill. That's all they need.
Perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's also rare where I'll eat a steak well done or rare or medium well. Like I'll eat at any of the ranges.
It's just good.
And it's good at all of those.
Yeah.
It's so good too that the kids are eating it. The kids are eating steak, which is
They don't eat steak?
no, they never did. It's
What's wrong with your kids?
Modern kids, dude, are such a battle. It's a constant battle. Oh man, don't get me going on that, dude.
Dino nuggets are
But you're-
nothing.
Your steaks are amazing, though.
Oh, this meat. It's. I mean, I'm buying for the rest of my life from this farm as long as I can. And they have a
Just gonna
beautiful
start
store.
Throwing cash. Your
They
way.
they set up. They've built a little old west style
Oh, cool.
store on their property, so you can go in there and pick up like little extra stuff that they've just recently,
Mhm.
We should go sometime.
I would love to.
It's not far from.
Okay, perfect.
You would really like this place, Wes.
I need to up my sourcing game.
I
Anyway.
have the strangest thing going on right now. Wes is in real time for me, but Chris, you're behind by like half a second. It's the weirdest.
peer to peer.
Oh, well, let's do a little refrunch.
Yeah,
Now,
maybe I
how
will on
can
my
that
side.
be?
I don't think you need to. I know, that's what I was trying to discover.
Are you talking about visually? Or
Yeah, visually. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No,
that could-
audio is fine.
oh, yeah, because I was
Audio's
going to say the audio's coming through the same machine.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be really strange, wouldn't
Very
it?
strange.
Let me do a riff.
No, I'll do a refrunch. I'll do a refrunch.
I
No,
like
no,
this.
no, I'll do it.
No, I'm doing it right now.
No, please.
I'm already doing it.
Oh,
like
well,
this.
you're going to lose me in the process.
Bye, Brent.
Bye.
I like this comment from Tiny in our Matrix chat. I can hardly keep track of who likes what. And one night when we were going out to eat, we just went to the grocery store and got cereal because
Oh
that
my
was
God.
easier than finding a place to eat that wouldn't make someone mad. I've been there. I mean, that can be tricky.
The only thing harder than trying to find a movie that 3 kids and 2 adults will enjoy
Ooh.
is trying to find a meal that 3 kids and 2 adults will enjoy. I tell you what, the kids are getting better as they get older. That's for sure. I got to give them credit. And they're definitely willing to try new things now, which is fun.
I know. I
But-
feel bad. I remember I was definitely a picky kid.
Were
so,
ya?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it wasn't allowed. You just didn't leave the
Same.
dinner. Yeah. You
I
didn't
might
leave,
have a
right?
I
You
might
just
have
stayed there.
a new meetup spot in Sacramento area.
Oh.
It was okay. I went there yesterday. It's Drake's the Barn. It's quite larger than the place we went to last time, and it's outdoors and dog friendly.
That's cool. And it has a barn. What's it
I
called again?
guess,
I want to look it up.
I'll throw it in the...
Drake's the Barn. It's in West Sacramento. It's a brewery kind of thing as well, of course. The food was fine. The burger is okay. Not too much food on the menu, but more of an outdoorsy hangout kind of a thing.
Yeah, man.
Looks like a nice spot.
That actually looks like ideal. So it's got a food truck or 2 or 3.
Yep.
And then like we could just claim tables.
Yep, and outdoor areas. They actually have like lawn chairs and stuff to set up as well. When the kids are playing, there's a whole area for kids to run around, crappy little mini golf thing, but something for the kids to do as well.
Now, Jeff knows how to lobby for a meetup.
Yeah, man, he knows the right things to focus on.
Yeah,
I'm
it's just
already-
a random thing, so it's like, oh, this is
I'm already like,
actually might be a
why?
good spot.
What effing excuse could I possibly have to go back to California? Is what I'm already thinking.
Yeah, not many reasons to be here, to be fair. So,
So can I? Okay. Oh. They got
parking sucks, so I gotta mention that.
but they got a fair amount of RV parks within a few minutes.
Uh-huh.
Look at
Well, I
that.
mean,
They
my
got-
house is only 15 away as well.
All right. You still have a spot for us?
Yeah, of course. I mean, now that we know how to get it, lay
Yeah.
jupes in and out, it'd be
Yeah.
a lot easier.
Yeah. We better have Brent there though, just to help with some of the moving of the blocks.
And more.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut up my hands. That's fine.
Well, we go the other direction. The way you went out, I don't think we'll have to block anything
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. I agree. It's pretty impressive that it fit between the fence posts and everything. Like, it was a tight fit, but it worked. Power and internets, and wouldn't even need to put up the space link.
Even had a little garden, like an oasis growing there in the yard
Aw.
Yeah.
from the air
From the air
conditioning
conditioning drippage.
Yeah, the condenser.
The only green spot in the whole
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Man. Now my camera's gone. Way to go, Brent.
Oh, I feel fine. Yeah.
Way to go. I hope you're happy.
My plan is working. Oh.
Yeah, I fixed it. Sorry. All right, how we feeling? Are we pod ready?
Pod ready.
Yep.
I'll shut down the supplemental cooling, which you can hear as soon as I turn off the gate.
I don't know if the nacelles can handle it. We'll find out.
All right, so
Are you
let's see.
setting us up for a watch party later? Is that what's happening? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought it was me. It's you.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's just nice to get a little fresh air in here because it's just warm enough to get, All right.
Oh, that's so nice, actually. Yeah. So quiet.
Yeah.
Can
All
we
right.
just
All right.
sit
come
in
on.
silence for a
No,
while?
we got to do a pod.
We'll do a
Oh.
little bit. We'll
Yeah.
do a little bit of that.
We'll
Brett.
give you a moment.
okay.
We'll give you a moment.
Give me 6 seconds. That's all I need.
All right. Get your finger on the record button, Brent, because here we go. In 3, 2, 1, record. Hello, Space Drew. Hello, sir. Hello.
Buongiorno.
Good.
He really looks good in that spacesuit, I think.
Yeah. You know what? White looks good on Drew.
I always imagine him as my levels. So, like, he's in my recorder, and whenever I'm speaking, he's, like, dancing and making, like, shapes in the...
I
that's
picture
kinda
him
how
in
I
a
pictured
Russian
Drew.
cosmonaut sort of outfit, like he was
Is he
going to
a
be up in
dog?
space, but like before he got in the rocket, he had to stop and edit a podcast out of space in time.
For some reason, I'm imagining him listening to some vinyl.
Yeah. It's probably always going, right? He's like, it's always spinning, but he just like, as he walks in, he like picks up the head and drops it on the record. And then he just gets to work.
In
I
full
was
space.
picturing an
outfit.
Yeah,
A-track, actually.
And then he just gets up and gets in his rocket and goes to space. All right, let's do our 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Four.
What? What are you laughing at me for?
You stuck your finger out first, visually, and then you, like,
I was thinking.
gave it a beat. Yeah, well,
I don't
what
have.
are you
I was
thinking
realizing I
about?
didn't have everything. I don't have everything muted or unmuted that I need.
So then I thought I was late, but I was actually early. Do we get to do silence
Yes,
now?
let's do our room cap starting now. Good enough. All right. We all want open source drivers for our graphics cards, but we don't often talk about the downsides that come with that. And some analysis was done, and it looks like the AMD open source GPU kernel driver is adding more than 5 million new lines of code. In fact, it now brings the total to 34.8 million lines of code of the Linux kernel, making up a measurable percentage of the entire Linux kernel. And I know, Wes, one of your favorite things in the whole world is to measure the value of something by the number of lines of code.
Why? That's the only way to value it. No. Of course, that's a hard metric, especially here. A lot of this is going to be auto-generated header files, especially for these AMD drivers. But still, more code, more complexity, more to audit, more to look at, more to just deal with, compile, ship around. Probably should add some context that the Nouveau driver is like 201,000 lines of code. The Intel i915 driver is 381,000 lines of code, at least in these like approximate metrics.
That's literally millions of lines smaller. That is interesting. Yeah, although it's not so much the case with the NVIDIA proprietary driver, is it?
Yeah, there's also the aspect here that we get to see all the dirty works now.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to your weekly Linux talk show. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
And my name is Brent.
Hello there, gentlemen. Well, the Linux kernel team has moved to code block the proprietary NVIDIA driver. We'll dig in the debate. I don't know, our take might surprise you. And then, is Ubuntu our best hope for the future of desktop Linux with everything going on with Red Hat and SUSE, and some of which you might not have heard of yet? Well, you've been asking us, so we'll dig into Canonical's future desktop plans, and of course, discuss. Then we'll round it out with some great boosts, some picks, and a lot more. So let's say good morning to our friends over at Tailscale. Tailscale.com/Linux Unplugged. It's a mesh VPN protected by WireGuard. Creates connections between all your machines using WireGuard's noise protocol. WireGuard. It's so great. I have no inbound ports anymore for all my self-hosted infrastructure. We love it. It'll change your networking game, and you can get started in minutes. Just go to tailscale.com/Linux Unplugged and try it for free for 100 devices. And of course, time-appropriate greetings to our virtual lug. Hello, Mumble Room.
Hello.
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 Hello, everyone. Nice job on the coordinating of the outfits. We should have thought of that.
I hate it when they look better than us, but that's most weeks.
That's because they showed up for the production meeting, and we didn't. That's what we get. Brent, you're still here. You're not in Berlin yet, but of course, that's coming up soon. So Brent will be traveling soon on the show. And of course, the meetup's coming up. Details at meetup.com/.
Yeah, meetup is coming. Yeah, meetup is coming up this coming week. So as this gets published this Friday. So if you're in Berlin or close-ish, I'd love to see you. 8 p.m. I'd love to see you. September 8th, 6 p.m. and details at meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting.
You've got some miles to travel. Better get walking, huh?
Are you stacking like frequent flyer points or something? Like, do you just have like a baller bag of points at this? Because why aren't you flying out here for free? You ought to be here every Sunday just using your points. I don't understand.
You know, I got much advice from our dear friend Alex and haven't integrated any of it. So I'm missing out on many, many opportunities. If anybody has some suggestions. I need a personal assistant or something. I don't know. I'm doing it all wrong.
Gaming that system is one of the perks to traveling for work. It's a high personal cost, but you get points. I want to give a shout out to Ohio Linux Fest, or OLF. That's also going to be on the week that we're publishing. I think it's the 9th through the 10th. And OLF has details on their website, which we'll put a link to the show notes in the show notes. And it looks like a killer lineup. I've been really focused on Linux Fest, so I didn't give them I hadn't been paying a lot of attention, but I want to give them a mention because it just looks like they've put together a great fest. So you'll have deets. If you want to make it, you can still have, if you're listening while this publishes, you still have time. It'll be this weekend coming up. All right, guys, let's talk about this change that's sort of been slow cooking in the Linux kernel for a while. There's been other steps that have led to this moment, but the real big action happened, or is happening, I should say, will be happening in the future in Linux 6.6. And Lewis Chamberlain has sent out some module changes for the upcoming merge window. And the most notable changes in here is it builds up what is being described as a, quote, defense against NVIDIA's proprietary kernel driver from using GPL-only symbols. Or in other words, the bits that are truly open source drivers should be utilizing non-proprietary. I should have rewritten this. You see that sentence?
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. Wow, how would you say that?
Or in other words, bits that only true open source drivers should be utilizing, and not proprietary kernel drivers like NVIDIA's default Linux driver, and respecting the original kernel code author's intent.
Wes, you remember when we talked about that taint proprietary module stuff. We talked about this a little bit back in 2020 when it seemed like this was a move to essentially create a DRM scheme in the Linux kernel that blocks proprietary drivers from getting to some of the bits that they really shouldn't be getting to. And legally, I think the kernel team is on the right footing here. And the whole idea about the GPL is kind of using the copyright system in sort of a judo move to protect free software. And so now they're kind of implementing a technical solution to sort of enforce that licensing. I wonder though if do you think, let me say it again. But we did get some more insights from, was it Christopher Hillwig?
Yeah, it was merged by Chamberlain, but Christopher Hillwig was actually the author of these changes.
Okay.
And wrote that, quote, "It has recently come to my attention that NVIDIA is circumventing the protection added in," and then he links to a previous commit, which is that taint proprietary module stuff from 2020, and goes on, "by importing exports from their proprietary modules into an allegedly GPL licensed module and then re-exporting them. Given that symbol get, which is a function in the kernel, was only ever intended for tightly cooperating modules using very internal symbols, it's logical to restrict it to being used on export symbol GPL and prevent NVIDIA from costly DMCA circumvention of access controls lawsuits. All symbols except for 4 used through symbol get were already exported as export symbol GPL, and the remaining 4 ones were switched over in these preparatory patches."
Right.
Back in 2020, the original defense was added. NVIDIA recommended avoiding Linux 5.9 for the time being, but then they ended up having a supported driver. Several weeks later. So it'll be really interesting, I think, to see if this time, how long Linux 6.6 and others are, let me redo that, geez. It will be interesting to see this time how long Linux 6.6 thwarts their kernel driver.
Yeah, either NVIDIA has to come up with a workaround, or they just have to go all in on the open source solution inevitably. But in the meantime, it's using a couple of things that are gross to me that the Linux kernel team is doing. And while I appreciate the situation and how they kind of have to just move this forward to get NVIDIA to comply and others, this affects other proprietary module creators as well, not just NVIDIA. I don't like the tools they're using here. They're essentially using technology to create kind of a quote equivalent, a GPL equivalent of a DRM, of GPL DRM, and they're using the DMCA as their legal justification to do it. And I think the DMCA is gross, and I think DRM is gross. And I also have an issue with blocking the functionality of probably one of the most critical hardware partners in the Linux ecosystem right now. I mean, at the rate NVIDIA GPUs are selling, they're not going into Windows boxes that are doing AI stuff. They're going into Linux boxes that are doing AI stuff. Or when somebody buys a $1,000 NVIDIA card for their workstation that they want to run Linux on, this stuff just makes it less performant, harder. There's additional workarounds which are buggy. They'll have flaws. It'll need time to be worked out. And so I'm kind of grossed out about it from a user standpoint too. And I have heard this emailed into Coder Radio many times, and a Phoronix reader echoed this, and I want to get your guys' take on this. The Phoronix reader said, quote, this sort of hostility makes me want to avoid Linux. This also affects other open source projects like ZFS constantly. This hostility is unnecessary. Wes, do you think it's hostility?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of two minds. The sort of argument is that, not all modules necessarily are like a derived work of the kernel. Not all proprietary modules are, necessarily then like infringing or doing something bad. But if you are integrating so tightly that you're accessing a bunch of these kernel specifics, at some point, in theory, you cross a line to kind of being like quote unquote derived work. Like you are relying so much on the kernel itself to do your thing that can you really argue you're a separate piece of software from it? Unfortunately, the developers sort of making the decisions around what symbols get qualified as export symbol GPL only. They don't necessarily carry out a detailed legal analysis or technical analysis to sort out whether that is the case. Are they qualified to do that? Often these symbols then just sort of get marked GPL only as a way of then playing into these schemes and making stuff harder for proprietary modules. It also comes at an unfortunate time when we have seen this new open source work from NVIDIA. It's sort of like, is this necessary right now when they are maybe now just making some strides? I can see the argument the other way, though. You might say, like, this is the kind of stuff, the pressure that's maybe pushed NVIDIA to actually get off their butts and finally make some progress on that side. And you look at some of the workarounds they have to do, and some of those do feel a little, even if you don't agree with the, how it happened on the kernel side, sort of the GPL condom approach, making these intermediary modules, it's not like that feels super clean either.
The most mid-level take I think I've seen online is that this is Linus who's just personally angry at NVIDIA. I mean, after all, I gave him the finger, and so he's been encouraging this to happen to get back at NVIDIA. I think that is such an off-base take. I think it's silly. But, Brent, I want to ask you this, and I want to also ask the boosters to boost in their thoughts on this question. What the hell do I know? Should I just shut up and listen to the kernel dev team? Because they clearly have been great stewards of the Linux kernel. And maybe it causes a little indigestion for users in the short term, but should we just, as users, should we just let these types of things wash over us and see how it plays out?
It feels like a tricky question because, yeah, of course, we should trust them. They're doing amazing work for the most part. And with little issues, these kind of things come up, once, twice, maybe 3 times a year at most. But on the other hand, I think it's important for us to keep questioning the team and to make sure that they're doing the things that feels right and in the spirit and legality of what we believe they should be doing and according to, their missions and such. So I kind of go both ways. But a question I also have is, is this kind of battle just going to continue? It gets solved here maybe, and in a few months we see another kind of rendition of this happening over and over again, because that could get old pretty fast.
Linode.com/unplugged. Y'all head on over there, support the show, get $100. They just spun up a new data center in Stockholm, like yesterday. Brand new, fresh, hot data center.
Uh-oh. I think we're going to have to deploy something there.
IPFS node.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's great. Akamai is like the Cadillac of the networks. And so to now have them embrace Linode and double down on that investment, it's pretty cool to see them building out more Linode data centers. You can get $100 on Linode and support the show at linode.com/unplugged. And I just thank everybody who does that, because you know what? We don't have very many sponsors anymore. They're one of the last ones. So everybody that supports them, it makes a difference. The Ubuntu desktop seems to really be trying to chart a new course. The team at Canonical is trying to make it clear that they are focusing and investing on the desktop, and they have begun releasing a series of blogs that document the road to the future. And Oliver Smith at Canonical, who serves as the product manager for Ubuntu Desktop, has published a couple of these now, talking about 23.10 and then also hinting a little bit at 24.04 next year, the LTS release. And in there, he teases a few things that they're focusing on for the Ubuntu desktop, along with things such as hardware partnerships with Intel to provide hardware accelerated video for Chrome in the Snap now, and as well as some highly experimental implementations of hardware-backed full disk encryption as an option in the Ubuntu installer that we could be seeing in the upcoming 23.10. And he drops some numbers on us, boys. The Ubuntu desktop has more than 6 million active desktop users. That's just desktop. That's huge. That's huge. And they believe that the values of the Ubuntu desktop, from their point of view, which probably matters, is choice, quality, support, enjoyment, performance, privacy by design, secure by default, seamless integration, and looking towards the future. So here we are in a crazy year, where you look back at Canonical over the last 2 years, things are looking pretty good. They're just staying the course. They're pushing in again on the desktop. They're building out this Ubuntu core desktop, which we took a look at not too long ago, and seems like it has some potential. It could be an implementation of Snaps where it actually seems like it all coalesces. Maybe, we'll see. But it's also Canonical focusing and staying the course amidst chaos with SUSE and Red Hat. To recap, ownership structures have changed at SUSE yet again. They've announced they're creating a RHEL clone that will eat at their own SUSE user base, but also adopts the language of their competitor and essentially admits that Red Hat Enterprise Linux is the enterprise Linux. In their own way they talk about the world, they concede defeat to Red Hat. And then they're going to build out a product that will be incompatible with their core product, which inevitably will lead to a hollowing out of SUSE engineers. My thought. Seems like an act of desperation or some sort of weird cold capitalism to me. Either way, I don't like it. Additionally, seems there is work underway to put LEAP out to pasture. The long-term release version of OpenSUSE seems a lot of changes coming there. 61 people are contributing to the code base, and that's been fading, it sounds like. They took a survey, and the community is somewhat interested in replacing it, but seems actually, from my read, rather meh. In fact, God bless him, it seems like the entire thing is being propped up by Richard Brown. I mean, that's from what I can tell from the outside. That's SUSE. Then you got Red Hat. They've recently refocused open source desktop developers onto other projects, abandoning those open source projects. We know about the RHEL source code changes and the ripple effects and strong divisions that's created. The future with Red Hat and Fedora, it feels a little unknown. It doesn't feel like it's in danger. It just feels like it's entirely not sure. And yet it's steady as it goes for Ubuntu. Yeah, they're sticking to their guns with snaps, but maybe they got something with Ubuntu Core. Their leadership has been consistent and has been steady. The company has been on a consistent course after their big significant layoffs before their switch to GNOME. And they're spending money on the desktop again and Linux gaming. And they're also trying to tell us about it, which is signal in itself.
It seems like a kind of far cry from, I don't know, the last era we were in for a bunch of, we'd had the time when they were trying stuff on mobile. They were, Mur was the like hot thing. They were, Unity was out there. And then refocusing felt like maybe Ubuntu's future was kind of, there was the desktop, of course, but the server, the containers, that ecosystem was where the focus is. But you're right.
Enterprise business.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, in comparison to some of their peers, in comparisons to just other efforts and the amount that they're telling us about it, it feels like a little bit of a new energy, or at least a more public recognition of that energy.
And in Brent, in a way, aren't they just sort of winning by default just by not screwing up right now? Like they just have to not screw up.
Yeah, they didn't do any like really hot take on any of the recent news, and I think that was probably wise. They're just continuing to do their thing in their own lane and not getting tangled up with any of the fires on either side.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have quite the same or as pessimistic a look on the SUSE stuff, but one of the things we talk about a lot with Red Hat is just the amount in the background that we don't appreciate that they influence and add to and build up the.
To be clear, that's still happening.
Yes.
Still
yes,
lots
definitely.
of that happening. Yeah.
And I think Ubuntu's been able to do some of that as well. There's definitely components of the desktop, especially now that they're helping out with GNOME. And, SUSE feels like maybe it's off in its own world more. So there are a lot of good works. Like we've seen like the Snapper stuff, all kinds of neat integrations we talk about when we, play around in that ecosystem. But it doesn't feel like in the same way those additions, improvements, features make it back to like the wider Linux ecosystem in a way like Canonical has more influence.
Yeah. Yeah, like some of the improvements upstream to GNOME Desktop that have been shipping in Ubuntu for a while. Now, I actually just recently did a little refresh, and there's a lot of legitimate reasons why the patches haven't made it upstream to upstream GNOME, and they are working on it. But Canonical has been able to, handle some of those edge cases and ship that stuff and provide a faster performant GNOME Desktop. And they're doing that now, and that's engineering work they've invested into that. That's results that their end users are getting to see. And I think the other way they win by default, Canonical wins by default with their release model. I think that is a totally unique thing in the world now, where you have the RHEL clones and the SUSE stuff that has just completely fallen apart. I was reading a user thread, and everyone is so confused as to what they should deploy on their servers now, if they want to be in the SUSE system or if they want to be in the RHEL ecosystem. And with Ubuntu,
Nothing's changed, right? You just,
download the LTS. If you want the support, you pay for it.
if anything, you've got more access to support. You've got longer supported timelines. Yeah, right. It's kind of a great time to be an Ubuntu server deployer.
Yeah. And they just don't have to change a thing. They're already the simpler release model.
Yeah, reading a little bit about how, OpenSUSE LEAP, the community seems to want to change it, or at least the developer community does. It changed completely my idea of what LEAP was. I always thought it was the thing, the canonical model that everyone went to by default, and that Tumbleweed was sort of, more experimental. And now all of a sudden I'm really questioning what LEAP is to people, or are a bunch of folks going to, suffer if it changes dramatically, and that model for OpenSUSE goes away? I don't know. That seems wild to me. I'm still wrapping my head around it.
I would like insight from our lizard listeners out there if they think the decline of LEAP is maybe at the cost of the success of Tumbleweed. Perhaps SUSE just assumed there was demand for both, but really there's just a lot of demand for Tumbleweed. And maybe that's why they don't see the active contribution over at LEAP. I don't know. I'm not connected enough to the SUSE community, but I'm sure some folks listening could probably share some insights on that. I think it's just sort of fascinating as the show has become so enamored with NixOS and that development area, but to take a second to step away from that, which is such an exciting area, and look at the architecture of what gets the Linux desktop built. And these individual companies and their levels of contribution come and go over the years. And just as we kind of get used to it's always been this way, things end up changing. But what does remain consistent are those individual contributors, some of whom you hear from on this show on a pretty regular basis, who are still passionate about that thing, that stick with the community as the corporate ownership structure changes, as the funding structure changes, as the demand for the project changes. They stick with their passion and they continue to build it. And it's such an awesome, unique thing that we have in the free software community that you don't have in the commercial space.
A little bit before the show started on the live stream, we were talking a bit about the Steam Deck and Linux gaming success, and kind of touched on the productization and what that meant for the success of the Steam Deck. And it feels like maybe Ubuntu's playing, and Canonical is playing an important role here, something we had previously seen kind of in the Fedora side and then on the Red Hat side of their own products. But, maybe we're concerned that if Red Hat's a little less focused on Linux desktop, you need a product sometimes in these companies to really justify adding engineers to solve these problems. We might know about a bunch of problems on Linux desktop as day-to-day users we'd like to see, but that's not going to motivate anyone to spend their time, or at least, not very many people. But if you're saying, well, we have this partnership, we are shipping this product, it needs to work well, it needs to hit these measures, and that means we need to improve Pipewire, or fix this X problem on the Linux desktop. That's how a lot of this stuff actually gets done. And you kind of need folks shipping products, or at least thinking about it as a holistic thing.
We were talking about it on the live stream before we sat down to record, and it was look at the explosive growth in the Steam numbers for Linux. And it's really all thanks to the deck. The deck is doing terrific as a product, and you can see it in the numbers because now when you look at Linux, something like 72% of Linux users are using the AMD GPU and graphics card that's in the deck because they're using the deck. And it's using technology for the most part that all three of us and everybody listening has probably had on their Linux desktop for years. Mm-hmm. And it didn't explode then. And now it's blowing up. And it's because they productize it, and what you're saying is exactly true, Wes. They hired some key smart developers to close those final gaps so they could actually make it a supportable product. And, Valve came this time. We've had Red Hat here for a long time. These things are a little cyclical, but in their own pursuit of their own interests, they help us close these gaps. And when they kind of move on and they refocus, those contributions don't go away, and they continue to be supported. It's giving you a chance if you want to jump in. You're good? Collide.com/ is it unplugged or Linux unplugged? Let's find out. KOLIDE.com/unplugged. It's tricky when you got you got different URLs for different ones.
What if it's just LUP? Who knows?
I'll give you the non-scripted pitch on this. Basically, it check systems before they're allowed to authenticate to your network apps. And then if they have issues like out-of-date stuff or don't have the right security compliance stuff, it can DM them over Slack or a messaging system and walk them through really simple instructions to fix it, give them links to stuff without having to bother IT. And then they get all that stuff audited and checked before they connect. And the other nice thing is that you can check everybody's like compliance status through a dashboard, and it supports desktop Linux for that.
Yeah, you don't have to be the weirdo who, is making IT upset because the tools don't work.
I want to talk about something that's so fun, that is really blowing up right now. It's a new genre of podcasting, and it is really thrilling because you guys know I have sucked at finding new music over the last few years, really. Since I've switched to streaming, like my ability to curate and find music has just fallen apart.
It's nothing but Backstreet Boys.
yeah, that and Hanson. But there is a genre of new podcasts coming out that are music podcasts, and they're using value for value and the sat splits to send the sats to the artists while the tracks are playing. So the podcaster can do their style, and I'll link to a couple of different styles in here. The one that I was listening to this morning while I prepped the show is DJ V for V, and it's an all music podcast. So there's no talk. He just finds the tracks, he plays them, and then while the tracks are playing, the album art changes to the album art of the artist.
Nice.
And if you hit the boost button, 95% of the boost goes to the band, and then 5% goes to the show, and the show splits. And I've been listening to the Boostagram Ball, the Fairly Fun Show, and Before the Schemes and Behind the Schemes, which are also really great. And then our buddy Kyron over at Mere Mortals has a value for value podcast that explains all of this. If you are an artist and you have some tracks that you would like to publish, there are platforms that are coming out like Wavelake, WAVLAKE.com, where you upload your tracks, they build the RSS feed for you and then set up all the lightning stuff. And then you put your tracks up there, people boost when they listen. And if you're boosting our shows, you now have another way you can support independent creators using those same sats and using those same tools, because these also show up as tracks that are available to podcasting 2.0 apps, and you can boost from the web using Alby. And there is some tooling that I'll link to in the show notes that you can use to host it all yourself. It's so awesome because the entire thing is just RSS feeds, open standards, and you just need a place for the MP3 file and a place for the RSS, and then you can completely self-host your music and participate in this value for value ecosystem, get boosts for your songs. And it's thrilling for me as a creator because music has been something that is completely cut off to podcasters.
No kidding.
Radio stations buy these global licenses that are lots of money every single year, and they can play songs they want. They don't actually pay the artists. They pay this licenser. That's not even available to podcasters. So often podcast music sucks.
Right. Or like we also compete with all these proprietary platforms that do the same thing, right? Oh yeah, if you only publish here, then sure, you can use our catalog we paid for.
This is an open source system that you can self-host, and then it lets podcasters play music in their songs, and it supports the artists, and it is a genre that is blowing up. When I first started telling these guys about it, there was one podcast doing this. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth that I didn't link to in here that I know of, and probably more that are happening. And if you want to get in on this, take a look at how it works. Go to musicsideproject.com. It's some tooling that a band can use to just create all this stuff for them. They don't have to know how to write the XML, and then they can put it up on an endpoint and publish it.
I like that. I like two aspects of this. First, it feels like a lot more of a sort of like open collaborative culture sort of idea from the start that's less super concerned about these like restrictive schemes to tightly control stuff, and is more like, well, we're putting this out there. And then the other aspect is that we're building in the like make it easy to provide value back from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like I often go try to buy, flags from bands I like that support that, and I can go give them some money. But I find myself, if I want to support them more, I have to like buy it again, or like,
right.
Some of them have donations, but it's often like, okay, I guess I'll buy your record even if I don't have a record player, but having this just like ready to get go right there, easy to boost, easy to support, seems like a good idea.
Ansley Costello is the number 1 and number 2 and now number 3 on wavelake.com. And she's made something like nearly $3,000 now on the platform. She was on Spotify and all the other services for something like 6 years and made a total of like $300 from all of them combined for 6 years for having her music on there. She put it up here 3 weeks ago, and now she's got the top 1, 2, and 3 song, and she's just doing great. Her number 1 song alone has made 1.1 million sats. And it all plugs into the existing tooling that people already have for podcasting. So if you can boost this show, you can boost these artists. This is how it works. I honestly thought maybe it'd jump from podcasting to software development because the situation is so dire, but there's too much culture there, right? There's too much historical momentum. But music artists, they don't have a lot of options. Like the mainstream system doesn't support them. It's not designed for them. Some of these people have created these tracks years and years ago, and now they have a place to put them and monetize them and create more music and build an audience. And I'd love to see it spread to software. But now in retrospect, in hindsight, it's so obvious why it spread to music first. But it's the whole thing. It's open spec, RSS feeds, podcast players, HTTP endpoints, and then the Lightning Network. And it all comes together, and it's really, really awesome because as a podcaster, I've just sort of stumbled into watching this new genre from the very beginning. It's like incredible to see it blossom. And when podcasting's kind of in a fade right now and advertising's completely crashed, and I think we're going to lose more shows over the next year, just not us, but people. What a change of pace. What a silver lining, a ray of sunshine to see this booming. So we'll have links in the show notes. If you want to kick back and listen to a music podcast, there's a lot of different ones for just about every possible kind of taste and preference.
Yeah, I will say if you're interested in checking out that topic a little bit more, we did dive into this in quite a bit of depth in the latest Office Hours, number 34, officehours.hair/34 for that.
Yes, in fact, we test it live. We give a live demonstration of the switching to a song and then switching back.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you, but what you can boost for your podcast.
Ross came in with 100,000 sats using Podverse, and he is our baller this week. Greetings from Devon, UK, I think, Devon. Home of the best pasties and clotted cream in the UK. All right, what is clotted cream?
I think you shave your face with it.
No, I think that's something else there.
And actually, those are pasties, and they're delicious hand pies.
Not pasties?
No, these are like
with tassels.
These are meaty hand pies.
Yes, those are actually, I feel like a life hack that we should adopt over here because you take one of these things, you put it in your pocket, and you got yourself lunch ready to go.
Clotted cream is a thick cream made by heating full cream cow's milk, using steam or a water bath, and then leaving it in a shallow pan to cool slowly. So there you go.
Could we come up with a better name?
Sounds like they discovered that by mistake.
Exactly. Leaving it in a pan, calling it clotted. It sounds like, oh well, let's make lemonade out of these lemons.
I mean, we have sour cream, right? That's the same idea.
Right. Right. I don't know, guys. I don't know, but I'd be willing to try it. Cybergray came in with 46,912 sats.
I hoard that which your kind covets.
Hey there, Jupiter family. Adding another vote for the Framework laptop. Batch 6 user from the original shipment of Framework 13. And this baby has been my daily driver through several different distros and continues to be solid as a rock.
All right. I mean, I am really tempted. I don't have the funds for it, but I do think it'd be a great purchase.
I might have done this week, actually.
What?
Well, as you know, I've been having issues with the hinges on my Dev 1, which is very sad. I really like this laptop. So this week I took it all apart to try to repair it. If you remember, recently we had a clip where I was at Seabase with a few fellow listeners trying to repair my laptop, and I kind of gave up. It was dark and we were on picnic tables outside. It was not the place for it. I figured, in my home with lighting and tools and such was the better place. So I tried that this week and failed pretty miserably, actually. I got to the point where I could see just how terrible the condition of the hinges were, but I could not, without, damaging things further, get to the place where I could repair them. With my old ThinkPads, I've repaired countless hinges, but I just, never got far enough. And unfortunately, the internet told me that, the repair manuals for the standard HP laptops was going to work for the Dev 1, but the screen's totally different. So I just kind of had to say, No, I can't go further. I can't do this myself. So given the travels that I have coming up, I seeked a new laptop solution. And over, people suggested that I get a framework. And so I have one shipping to Europe. To listener Tomash, we'll see if he doesn't like run off with it.
So
before I get
you're
there.
going to try to do a lap. You're not going to swap laptops while traveling. I know you. You've been here at the studio with 2 laptops. You're like, yeah, I don't want to move because I'm in the middle doing a lot of stuff.
Do we want to bet like what episode number he'll be fully switched over?
Okay, so this is 526. Yeah. 538.
Whoa.
I'm going 530.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think I'm joking when I say 538. I think I'll go one under 529. Just do
Okay.
the Price is Right move. But that's only because we've now motivated him.
You have such little faith in me. Gee.
No, it's just you're going to be traveling. Who wants to move and switch their main machine while
It's true.
they're traveling in a
Yeah,
foreign
I'm
country?
just so fearful that this, the monitor on this one is just going to flop off of the chassis at some point. So at least there's insurance there, maybe. I don't know. Did I make the right decision?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, and also because you got a critical eye, but also to hear the comparing and the contrasting with the Dev One.
Oh. Complete Noobs boosted in with 33,333 sats. Simply saying, computer science will and should be open and free, libre free.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. Linux is a big part of that. Free software is a big part of that. I want to get my kids playing around with the ESP home devices one day. User 66 came in with 27,567 sats using Fountain. He says, nope, you guys, not from Germany. Further north to the land of Saab. Now swing it again, Wes. Postal code for the win. Oh, and NixOS? Well, I'm slowly getting around to figuring out all the ways to do things. This might be boost number 6 for all of JB. Well, thank you very much, User 66. And I think we thought last week, it sounds like we thought he was in Germany last week, but Wes, did you bring the correct map?
Yeah, I know. I get a little confused with Europe sometimes. Trying again, and it looks like maybe the digits got mixed around. I think from last week it was 25,767, and that appears to be a postal code from Helsingborg, a city in Sweden. So let us know how we did. Hopefully I got it this time.
Yeah, find out. And thank you for the support. Appreciate it.
Torpt boosts in with 21,984 sats from Podverse. My whole week went by, and I was thinking, I called Brent Brad, didn't I? Sorry, Brent.
Oh, it happens, and I don't take it personally, so all good.
Sometimes, for some reason, like I'll type something wrong and it corrects it to Brett. So I've called Brent Brett a few times. Well, autocorrect has, and I just chuckle and let it go.
It's slightly closer, or feels closer. I'm not sure.
Torpt also sent in a story. Now for a story, since I feel I owe you and the audience some entertainment. Quit Windows cold turkey and went to Linux some years ago. I went with Debian, thinking that I'll probably bork my system at some point beyond repair. 3 years later, and I'm still on that first ever Linux install with 32 gigs of swap. What? And the installer said to use the same amount as your system memory. And P.S., this is a Back to the Future boost.
Wow, that is really, like, to have your first install last like that. That's a rare thing. I mean, my congratulations to you, sir. McZip comes in with 20,000 sats using Cast-O-Matic, and he just says, boost!
We'll boost right back at you.
Yeah.
Faraday Fedora boosts in with the Roa Ducks.
Oh.
For anyone on the fence about boosts, it's literally open source money. It may seem daunting to get started, but it's actually much easier than opening a bank account or applying for a credit card if you were starting from square one. I'm willing to give some support for Canadians looking to get some sats to boost. Just DM me on Matrix. I'm sure others out there are willing to help their respective countrymen as well.
Thanks, Faraday. Appreciate that.
Yeah, what a nice offer.
I agree with that message, too. Oh.
The Bender Cop boosted in 15,000 sats with Breeze. Nice intro to Fedora Asahi remix and great defense of Bitcoin. It'd be cool if you could go a bit into gaming on Asahi someday.
Yeah, I hope so.
Future assignment.
You got to remember, though, it is ARM, right? So you're either looking for ARM compiled games or you're going to be doing yet another layer of emulation potentially, right?
So many layers.
x86 and the Proton stuff. So, I mean, if they build powerful enough machines,
We can do it.
maybe. I wouldn't have thought so, but it seems to be happening. A row of ducks from Men on RB comes in using Fountain. Here's my remaining sats from Fountain. Thank you, Manon. I appreciate that. Of course, you can't always move those to a new app, but we're happy to take them off your hands.
Oppie 1984 boosts in with 4,000 sats. And this seems to be a reply to a previous booster asking about, how to get something on their desk or desktop that could receive a call, do screen sharing, but like an agent on there.
Yes.
And Oppie writes, I don't know if this will work, but a while ago I watched a YouTube video where a guy showed how to build a private VoIP network with off-the-shelf parts. Here's a link to that video. So we'll put that in the show notes, and hopefully that helps.
It looks like, I know nothing, but I see a device that seems to be maybe bringing IP in and then sending it out over POTS lines to like any old POTS phone. I love that. I miss having desk phones. As a kid, I was alive at the very end of the spinning dial era. So like my family all had we spun the dial around for the number. And then we kind of, quickly adopted the new phone technologies. The phone companies would send you a new phone. So I have a lot of nostalgia for that old stuff, Oppie. Thank you for that.
We got a row of ducks in from CG Barrows. I was thinking that when you guys say that you're actually using one of your sponsor's products in a day-to-day life, it gives me more confidence that it's actually a good product and not you just reading some script they ask you to read. Like Chris saying that Tailscale changed his self-hosting life. I guess I grew a thick skin over those stupid lying advertisements on TV and now on the internet.
This is my kind of second or third concern with dynamic ads is that they're not products that we personally use necessarily.
Right.
We may not even be aware in some cases of what ads are being inserted. I wonder if there will be, or if anybody knows of a dynamic ad program or platform, I guess I should say, that is self-hosted, that ideally is open source, where you could use your own CDN and you could just cut your own ads in.
That'd be nice, yeah.
And then it would be our own ads. And that wouldn't seem like such a bad system. And maybe then we could actually do a good job with the chapters, because that's another thing that gets screwed up by dynamic ads is the chapters.
Yeah, I wonder if that's something like Castopod or similar, whatever support.
Maybe. But yeah, otherwise, I really have a concern, because I think a lot of the value in those ads for the listener and for the advertiser is that we really do use Linode. We really do use Tailscale, and we can go in there and tell you about it. Like, it's a hard thing when you don't use those products or you're not even aware of what products are being advertised, because it's not the same kind of endorsement. It's a cheaper, lesser thing. I don't know, but I do know the podcasting industry, as it was, or whatever you want to call it, is sliding into dynamic ads as if it were being sucked into a black hole. It's happening so damn fast. Dan Johansson came in with 10,000 sats. Thank you, Dan. Using the podcast index, I cleared my desk today. I removed the wires from the keyboard, the mouse, the headphones, the USB hub, my spare Ethernet HDMI cables, and lots more since I started moving some stuff over to Bluetooth on my desktop. It really is a great feeling. You got to keep it nice and tidy. Good for you, Dan. I agree. I should do it more often, but it's such a nice feeling when you finally do clear out an area and make it all tidy.
Yeah, having a nice desk before you can get to work.
It's the workspace, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping that tidy is nice. And my ADD brain has such a hard time with that. Now that was our last boost before the cutoff. We have some below the cutoff. Was there any that you wanted to pull ahead this week?
I think we received one with a emoji story that I think you should tell, Chris.
Right. Okay, thank you. Smart Talk or smart, whatever you want to call it. He came in with a puzzle, and I don't know how we're going to crack this thing. It's Snowflake plus Penguin, so that sounds like Nick's OS, plus emoji honey badger, X hand sign poop. So again, Snowflake, Penguin plus honey badger, X hand poop. I think he's saying NixOS plus maybe Home Manager.
I was thinking SSH maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking maybe they're saying like Honey Badger doesn't care about NixOS. Like they're like enough with the NixOS already.
That might be it. Yeah, because that could be like no more hand poop.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like that. Let us know. I mean, it's fun. We get the boost live, right? So would I send that guy? I sent that to you on the first. I sent that to you guys. Like, okay, guys, let's crack this code. We still didn't crack it. We had days to prepare. We still didn't crack it. Thank you everybody who boosted. We had 15 total boosters, 15 boosts, and we made 287,527,000 sats, just below the 300 sat goal I was trying to get to. Really, thank you everybody who does support the show. We need just a few more. If you think about it. 60,000 people might listen to this episode, but we had 15 people step forward and support us. We just need a few more, and we can begin to really move that needle. So thank you, everybody who does. It's a great way to give us feedback and interact with the show. You can get a new podcast app at podcastapps.com, Fountain or Podverse. Podverse is GPL, so we really like that. Or you can just get Albie. GetAlbie.com, then you boost in from the podcast index. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes to make it real easy for you. Now, before we go, I want to remind you that the show is live on Sundays and the Mumble Room's going. We got it. Look at that showing in the quiet listening.
Wow.
There's a whole raft of people in the and that's a great way to get just a super low latency Opus feed direct from the studio mixer.
Powered by open source?
Yeah, man.
It's like you're right here next to us in the studio, or almost.
It's about as good as it gets. You may actually have, depending on the day, a faster connection to us than Brent does. So
hey, I'm going to space here.
And then you're just one room away from popping down and telling us what you think about something. So that Mumble Room, that's our virtual lug. We have details at jupiterbroadcasting.com. There's a Mumble link there. You can get you all the information. You can always participate on Sundays. Or if you're just out and about, you can tune in radio style at jblive.fm. We have a radio stream going all the time that plays old JB shows, and then when we cut in when we're live, and it's pretty nice and easy. Just load it up on your mobile device in the web browser. You don't even have to install an app. Just go to jblive.fm and start streaming on Sundays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. But don't worry, we'll still keep publishing it. We always do at that RSS feed. In fact, tell you what, little secret, that's how most people catch it. So it's always there, the same bat time on the same bat channel.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.
There's a whole raft of shows over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. Coda Radio got into some spicy stories this week. Of course, self-hosted is always pushing the envelope. We got a new one coming up soon. And Office Hours is testing brand new grounds. The most recent Office Hours is a barn burner. All that's over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. We just really are grateful for you listening. We appreciate your time. And we also really appreciate it when you take a moment to share the podcast. Word of mouth is really the best way for a podcast to get discovered. In the meantime, we hope you have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you right back here next Sunday. I know you wanted to jump in. Sunday! Yes! All right. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate you. I'll stop, Mr. Brentley. We'll make a nice tight one for Drew this week.
Shut it down. Now it's time for titles.
Yes. So we should get the titles.
Last minute suggest. Get those in.
This would be the moment.
Talked about that old NVIDIA stuff.
Yep. Ubuntu kind of staying the course. Good old Ubuntu staying tried and true. I really do wonder, is Leap gone? Like, what's going to happen there? That's a weird thing. Like, I just didn't even realize it was a discussion until all of a sudden they're like voting to get rid of it. I'm like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah, I'm feeling totally out of the loop there. Like, it just like, I don't know. What's going on over there? I couldn't even get clarity. I looked and looked.
I can't tell how much is a selection effect either. I mean, obviously, I'm not like a big SUSE user day to day.
Yeah.
Really?
And so I can't tell. Is it just that there's a lot more tumbleweed sort of hype and like that's, or is it sort of the intersection of our audience and the folks that we follow who are more inclined to use like a rolling release if they're going to be sort of a, like a into Linux in an active way?
So we just hadn't heard from them because we'd probably, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, or it's got so few users and so few contributors now that it just doesn't really register what's going on with it at all.
Could be that too.
It's hard to say though. Could be totally wrong on that. All right, I'm going to cut off the titles.
Oh boy.
Oh, the pressure.
I see two people typing though, so I want to give them a second to finish in case they're bangs. Because the worst thing is I end the title and then boom, a bang suggest shows up. There we go. See, it was just
and that's it. We wanted that one.
Yeah. All right, there we go. It's time to vote.
Sleuthy.
Let's go vote. Chris Hart's Ubuntu. Canonical's defaults to desktop. Canonical wins by default isn't bad.
Oh yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah. Double Trouble Summer. Kernel says no to NVIDIA. You didn't say the magic word. That's good too. The Google privacy slide. Why we think Canonical's looking good is too long, Chris. I think
That
Canonical.
Chris guy doesn't know how to title. That's why we have this whole process.
Yeah, right. That's very true. I think that Canonical wins by default is going to be hard. It's already got 4 boats, 5 boats. Yeah, that's a good one. You got it, Shift. I think you got it. A pretty clear winner this week.
And thank you, because I don't know how to title this one.
Do you smell delicious food cooking?
Oh my God, you guys.
I think the wife brought down the fixins.
Who's cooking
so
for me?
hungry.
I thought your cats were doing
Dude,
that.
my stomach is growling so bad. As soon as I started smelling it, my stomach started growling so bad. All right. I like that. That was an easy title, voting process.
Suspiciously
It's
easy.
like some weeks it's just grueling.
Yeah.
But this is great.
It's going to be impossible tags. I don't. What's the trick here?
Right.
Yeah,
I want to know what's wrong.
Trick.
It's only 1:30.
Yeah, it was a shorter show. It was. Well, although we were kind of going for a little bit every now and then we kind of go for tighter ones and,
I mean, just even with the pre-show and how much things go wrong. Usually we're here
Jeff
till
sounds
2:30.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's good.
Oh, we're doing
Now
2
you go
today.
get
Didn't we
the
tell
meat.
you?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. God, I would die.
I'm glad Jeff's here for it, though.
Well, it's Monday though, Chris. You're
Oh
fine.
God, if you could smell what I'm smelling right now, I'm almost down to breaking down that door right now and just running out there. It smells so
I
good.
think there's a guard dog at play, so be careful.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you get like a sneaky kid hug in there? during the
Yeah.
episode, too?
Dylan stopped by.
That was nice.
Yeah, it's nice because he was asleep when I left this morning.
Aw.
So
Him and Levi.
yeah, I sneak out early.
How's the garden?
Good. It's been a little cloudy, but it seems to be doing fine.
Probably need to water way less.
Pumpkins are popping off again, so that's nice.
Heck yeah.
Did you figure out the pumpkin mold thing?
Yeah, there's still a slight dusting, so we need to do another treatment. But we did a treatment and stuff, and also I think the change in weather helped a little bit as well.
Mhm.
But seems like they're back to growing. They've gone out of survival mode and they're back to growing, which would be great. They're gonna be huge by October.
Yeah, a lot of things don't like the extreme heat. They
Yeah.
just kind of go dormant.
The pumpkins, even when it's a hot day and they're fully watered, they still look really wilty after, about 3 o'clock. They start looking wilty. You go out in the morning, they look fine. Then by 3 o'clock, you're like, oh.
Are you?
So we'll
have you done
have-
any of the like sneaky late planting, like some lettuces or something?
Yeah, she is. I forget what she is planting, but she is doing some last minute.
Sneaky
Nice.
late planting. I love it.
Man, look at you guys, experts all of a sudden.
She's
I like
going. Yeah,
We'll have some pumpkin carving at Linux Fest then, huh?
that's a good idea. Yeah, we could.
Bring some ESPs, make them
Best
light up.
looking
Oh
tux
my
wins.
God, dude! Put some WLED lights inside.
Yeah, see?
inside the pumpkin.
I did it
like
last
every
year.
garden, like every single garden, you just have too many squishes by the fall, and you got to get rid of them.
Yeah, it's all right. I don't mind. I have that problem with corn right now. And basically, I go out there every day and I break off like 4 and I eat them. Like we cook them at dinner or something. We're just trying to find, Levi loves the cobs. So sometimes I'll shave him and I'll give Levi a little bit of a cob in his dinner. Give him a little fiber.
Soon you'll have a little stand at the end of the driveway.
Yeah, right.
Selling
Right.
self-serve corn.
I was thinking, I might let the kids do that actually.
Those are cute.
Abby is always down for a little entrepreneurial she's got some plan to go play flute at some event going on downtown I didn't even know about. And I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's a paid thing too. It's like, what?
Sounds like video games at a friend's house, but she tricked you.
Maybe. Although she'll come back with the cash one way or another. She's just. I should hire that girl.
All right.
Put her to work. She could manage the business.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I mean, negotiate those sponsorships.
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, God, I never
What,
thought about it.
you're gonna be mean to this cute girl?
Right. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Could be a winning strategy. All right, how you feeling? You think we got everything? Yeah. You think we got everything? You think we're ready to finish it up?
I think we might be.
How you feeling, Brian? You think we got everything? We're ready to wrap it up? I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk to the members about, but I forgot. That's what I'm chewing on. I'm struggling because I thought there was one more thing.
Hey, Linux Fest is happening, and you should go.
Yes, that is true. I am concerned. There has been a bit of a potential, though we don't have the final word yet, but we have been potentially informed we will not have access to any refrigeration.
Okay.
So I feel like that might be a deal breaker, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Hey, you know what? Here's something I'll leave the... Oh, man. I wanted to talk about how the helicopter's going again.
Oh, yeah.
55 flights now.
So cool.
That's
Dang it.
insane.
Oh, man. I also want to talk about how the fact that the new Lenovo X1 Gen 11 is now available with Fedora.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Shoot.
Well, let's redo it.
I also had a pick. It's a little weird one, though. So I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. That's why I didn't include it. Some psychopath has flat packed up the 64-bit Windows version of Telegram.
What?
And they've created I believe, I haven't tried this, but I think they've created like a little wine environment.
Yeah, sure.
And then they run the 64-bit version of Windows Telegram, which I guess might be better than the Linux version.
Okay.
I've never used it, so I don't know, but it seems to have people installing it. So, I mean, under 1,000,
That
but
seems ridiculous.
I thought it'd be kind of just a funky pick.
It does seem like snaps and I assume Flatpaks too are kind of nice for that though. Like you can,
Yeah.
it's easy to get as like, cause you have these sort of platform. You can just like, oh yeah, well wine is the thing where we need you to all just provide for me in this little environment.
Can I tell you something? I kind of like wine as a self-contained thing. I mean, I do have wine installed on my system, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
And when you can just have it in something as just like a layer.
Especially because it can be easy if you like start messing with installing additional stuff or which libraries you're selecting for a particular thing. And then, right, that's why there's the whole bottles stuff.
Yep.
Like it's easy to go a little haywire and break something that you had working now is broken because you're trying to get something else working.
Uh-huh. So I don't know, members, if you want to check it out, let me know. It's 64-gram desktop. The 64-gram desktop on FlatHub.
I do kind of find it amusing though that we've got these like sandboxed new world order sort of packaging systems only to run a bunch of Electron apps and I guess Windows programs.
Yeah. That is weird. It is a weird future. I think about this often on the Bitcoin Dad Pod when we're talking about Bitcoin and where things are going and what the community will look like, because I often look at Bitcoin as it's like 2001 for Bitcoin, like it was for Linux, 2001 for Linux.
Yeah.
And the things we were concerned about and where we thought things would go and the type of users we thought would be using Linux are nothing like what materialized, but yet it's still extremely interesting. It's just not what a lot of people thought about. Yeah, Brian and I got into that. I chatted on his show and we got into like the XGL, AGLX effects and how that was such a big thing.
Yeah.
Talked about how a lot of that's changed. So you can find that on his Lunduke Locals if you're curious. He and I sat together and chatted about that. But I think that's everything, right? Yeah.
I was thinking, are we gonna get like snaps in the Flatpak store at some point? Someone gonna be brave enough to like?
No, you're just gonna have they're just a Snap store. They have their own thing.
Yeah, but what happens if like you don't want to install snaps on your, on your OS, but you actually want access to something that's snapped only?
You need like a Snap container, you mean?
That's what I'm saying. Is someone going to do that? Is that like a whole other level of crazy?
Like a Docker container that runs snaps.
Or a Flatpak environment that's got Snap
That's
installed.
what I'm saying.
That's what you want. Oh, yeah, that's what Brent wants. Huh.
That's not what I want. I just think
No, it sounds like Brent really
that.
wants
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I have this very specific use case I don't want to divulge.
Brent, where did you link the song that I thought would be a good end of stream song? Do you remember where you
What thread
did you link that in?
Yeah, we keep changing it. LUP next, I think.
I'm looking there.
Yeah, he started a.
Oh, it's a thread. It's
Yep.
a sub thread. I'm just looking for.
Oh,
it.
sorry.
Yeah, no, you got
I
it.
used a function.
You got it. You got it. I was just
How
skimming.
dare you?
I know.
There are two of them there, so choose wisely.
I just picked the first one. Is the second one
Yeah,
better?
that's probably. They're very different from each
Just
other.
the better one of the two? All right. All right, we're going to wrap it up here on the tubes of you so we don't get ourselves in trouble, but we appreciate everybody who watches us live. And, of course, if you'd like to watch the full thing, we start quite a bit ahead of time on our private streams at jupiter.tube. And, of course, we RSS encapsulate the full entire thing for our members. Or if we don't have a live stream, we still have a member special. So that's always available, too. But thank you, everybody who does watch. We'll just take a minute to transition off the commercial streams, and then we'll wrap up here because that is what we do.